What are the similar things that those operators they're operating and doing well? Could be a plumber, could be an IT guy, could be somebody in the financial world. But what do all those have in common that you get into their business? What are the commonalities they're just not doing well?
Well, so I've developed I call them my 3 pillars of financial success for businesses, and it's a root of what I've seen when I first started working with these businesses, right? And those 3 pillars. So from my perspective, this is building the foundation of your business. So every client that I start with these 3. And some businesses have 2 out of 3 really good, and one's not great or whatever. But you got to get these 3 right. Otherwise, you start to scale your business, and it's going to collapse, right? And they are cash flow. You get no cash, no business, right? A lot of different things you can do there. Budgeting, the B word, the infamous B word. You got to have a budget. It literally, if someone balks at having a budget, I'm like, I can't work with you.
What's that mean? What's a budget mean? Just how much you're spending? Here's how much I'm spending. Here's every month, it's $10,000 is my budget, and it's line item in these things. This is my budget. Can't go over it. I'm constrained within this. Is what it costs to operate my business. Is that simple in the beginning?
No, because I don't just focus on expense. I'm focused on the whole picture.
Growth, marketing,
yeah,
everything. But it's like, hey, here's my allocation. A budget is, here's the budget that we have for our business, right? It could be for growth. It could be just to maintain whatever it is. But here's the budget.
And here's the thing, Mark. I'm glad you brought that up, because so many people think of a budget in a constrictive way, like the way people think of a diet. When I say, Mark, you need to go on a diet, you go, I got to drink water and eat salads all the time. No, like when I was in powerlifting, I was moving up a weight class.
It's like, what's the goal? What are you trying to achieve here?
I was eating like a pig.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to gain weight.
You're eating
right?
Thousands of calories.
Yeah, many thousands, right? So that was my diet, because I'm trying to gain weight. If your business is trying to grow, you're going to be spending money. You're going to spend a lot of money, right? Potentially.
But Ken, where do I get the money? It's not coming in right now. I don't have access to it. My cash flow's low. How can I make a budget based upon money I don't have?
Well, I promise we didn't practice this, but that leads to the 3rd pillar. Minding your margins. And that deals a lot with pricing. And so a lot of times businesses are not.
This is like the guy on the paper route.
Yeah.
I need to make more.
Yeah. And so, and when I say that to people, so I used to say pricing, and I changed it to mind your margins. First of all, there's a little alliteration there, a little catcher. And the other thing is, when I would say pricing, people go, oh, so you're going to come in and make me raise my prices by 20%.
Make more margin.
Dude, that's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. There's so many other intricacies that fit into that. And I tell people this all the time, and it's gotten me some flack. I say, if you have a business and your net margin, not the gross, everyone wants to quote gross.
Net.
I don't talk about gross.
There's no net left over for most people, Ken. They're running in the business. It's running them.
And
man.
So gross, you could kind of manipulate and make it say what you want in a lot of cases. Net's it, man.
At the end of the day,
what's ended up in your pocket?
What do you got at the end of the month?
And so I tell people, if you are running a business, unless you're in the like hospitality or food services industry, and your net margin is less than 10%, congratulations, you have a hobby, not a business. There's virtually no other business that you should have where your net margin should be less than 10%. And if it is, you need to hire someone like me, or that has a skill.
So tell them, if they're bringing in $1 million in receipts, you need to be making $100,000.
Yeah.
If you're below that, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. And again, food services, thing like that, whole other animal, margins super thin, super tight.
Might be 5 to 6%.
Yeah, it's going to be lower there. Yeah. But almost every other business, you need to be above 10%, or you're just not. And that's what I find a lot of times.
Why can you make that definitive statement? Like, why is that a statement?
I studied it because when I first started to see this, when I got clients after I left the corporate world, I started to look at it. I'm like, man, what the heck is this? And so then I started looking at different industries, because I'm like, does this supply? Because I got 3 different industries I'm working in, and this is where we're at. And one of the reasons why that is for a lot of businesses, they have what I call the silent business killer. And this is going to sound ridiculous when I say it, but almost every business I've ever worked with has some form of a silent business killer. Silent business killer is a service or product you provide that is at best break even. In many cases, you're losing money. I call it the silent business killer because, of course, no one would purposely do that. It's the silent one. You think that this widget you're producing, like, you're making money on it because you're just looking at gross. And you're like, oh, my gross margin on this thing's 55%. You're not taking into account everything else. And so in some cases, minding your margins means, what is this product or service that we're literally losing 10% on? So I had this, the very first client I had, this is where it first reared its ugly head. And he had a contract. They did things for home builders and remodelers, and built like sinks, showers, things like that. And he had a contract with the by far largest home builder in the area. Like, they were number one, number two's like not even on the freaking radar, right? So he's got this contract. So you're like, oh, sweet, man, this is a cash cow, right?
And it's cash flow.
There's cash flow in, but there's too much out, because I started looking at it, because I'm seeing all these reworks we had from this particular home builder. And so I started digging into it, and I'm like, okay, what are we charging for this thing? What's our cost? What's the cost of a rework? What percentage of reworks are we having from one particular builder? And I started doing back of the envelope math, and then I'm like, I need to dig into this a little further. So I had to sit the owner down. I come in, I go, hey, we need to go meet with fill in the blank. I won't say their name. Almost anyone, I'm sure they're down here around Cincinnati as well. We would know the name, but I said, we need to either change our pricing with them, or we need to fire them as a client. And he was like, again, this is my cash cow. What the hell are you talking about? Thought you knew what you're talking about, Ken. You're crazy. So I had to sit him down and explain. I go, literally, every sink we make for these guys, just tape a $100 bill to it, send it out. Because that's what we're doing. We're losing every product almost that we make for these guys. We're losing money on. He goes, well, how do I fix that? I don't want to just fire these guys. I said, no, I'm not suggesting that at all. I said, how about you and I, let's go meet with like their COO. Let's figure out something and say, because here's the thing. It's not necessarily like we were only doing essentially one kind of product line for them.
Do more. Make it the loss leader and do more.
That's exactly what I told him. I said, let's have the opportunity
do closets, do the closet installs, do mirrors in bathrooms.
I'm like, let's have them let us bid on other things, and then we even things out a little bit, and then overall we're making what we should be making.
I bet that they were open-minded to that because they wanted to keep their pricing for what he already did.
Unfortunately, you're incorrect. So I met with him, and part of this, and you've seen this, I'm sure, Mark, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners, viewers, Good Old Boy Network was in full effect. So they're like, oh, I think they were concerned that we might undercut one of the Good Old Boy partnerships they had, and they weren't going to fire, their cousin who makes fill in the blank for them or does, whatever. So literally they said, we went and I presented some things. I said, look, we just want an opportunity to bid on it. We're not saying you have to give us the business. We want an opportunity to bid. If we're not where you want us to be and whatever. And he said, nah, we really just need you guys for this particular thing. And I said, okay, well, the answer then is an effective, on the first of next month, our pricing is going to go up by, I think it was like 22%.
You lose the business right then.
And he said, I'm going to have to check. I don't think that's going to work, though.
Yeah.
And we got out to the car. So the owner and I had ridden together to the meeting. We got out to the car, and we were sitting there, and he drove. He gets in the driver's seat and puts the key in ignition. He's sitting there for a second. And I'm in the passenger seat, and he looks to the left, opposite me, right? And there's a big sigh. He looks over and he goes, what the F did I just do? He goes, did that just ruin my business? Like, seriously, I really feel like that was a bad mistake. I said, I'm telling you. And I said, I explained to you already. If we lost all of their business, our sales go down, our profits go up. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds completely counterintuitive.
Let me throw something out here, though, but isn't he going to have to lay off some people?
If we don't replace the business. And so I said, here's our plan B. If we go in, if we go in and we're going to bid on some things, here's a preliminary look on that. Because maybe they're going to come out and say, unless you can match this price. So we can know right away, like, we can't match that. So this isn't going to work. And then if they say, get the hell out of here, we don't want to do business with you ever again, here's plan B, what we're going to do. Now we have some freed up, some capacity that we can work. And here's how we're going to attack that. But, it's one of those things, revenue is vanity. Sales are vanity, profit sanity.